7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Oh, this you crazy mother.
The Savachi syndrome, I'm telling you, I'm like, well, holy shit, that was crazy. What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Moto Aftermath Show, wrap-up show for Anaheim 2. Don't forget, Moto Aftermath Show presented by TLR Coatings. Visit them at tlrcoatings.com for all your powder coating needs. Also, if you guys want to follow us on Facebook. That's where you'll get all the updates. There's blog posts. You'll have the videos all get linked there. We are talking about actually doing a preview show for every week. Starting in a couple weeks, so we'll do still the wrap-up show on YouTube, but we'll have a preview show for the next week's race coming up on Facebook, so you can follow us on there. I'll link that down in the description. You can follow me on Instagram because I am going to some of the races this year, and I will be posting stuff up, so Instagram at Travis Ridenauer. If you want to help us out. For anybody who doesn't know, YouTube actually is changing their monetization. So even though we haven't been making very much money, we've been making a couple bucks here and there to help keep the lights on and get us some new lights. So thank you to everyone who watched, who did help us get that initial money here for the new lights. But they are going to take away our monetization if we don't get to 1,000 subscribers by the 20th of February. So if you like what we're doing, if you like following us, please hit that subscribe button. Send it to your friends, get them to subscribe, make some more accounts, subscribe like that. Whatever you got to do, we need some more subscribers. We got to get to 1,000. We're a little short on that right now. Also, though, if you want to help support the show, we do have a Patreon page, which I will link down below, or you can go on teespring.com, which I will link down below in the description too, buy a t-shirt for the show. Or I'll put some Amazon links in the description, and if you click one of those, go there and buy something. We do get a small slice of that, and that does help us out. And you can also like and comment down below. I have been bench racing with several people through comments on the first few videos for this year. I've had a couple different people hit me up on Facebook, and I've been bench racing through Facebook Messenger so far this year. So yeah, so that's pretty much it for that, all the paperwork stuff. So let's dive into the track talk here. Now on the phone with us this week, because he's not here, is Justin.
What's going on, guys?
So yeah, so if he sounds a little scratchy, we are literally doing a phone call and the phone is sitting next to the microphone because I suck at this and I had no other way to do it. I thought I had a way and it didn't work out. Anyway, Justin, give us your thoughts on the track.
Honestly, man, I hated it, and it kind of sucks because we were so adamant about how good Houston's track was, switching out the sections a little bit, giving more runs, just guys the way it's set up, and I think they just went back to typical, safe. I mean, the rhythm sections, there was no separation. The dirt was pretty good because they got a chance to put some moisture in it the week of, and then it rained a little bit. I think it was like Friday night for like 10-15 minutes from what I heard and stuff, but I mean, there was no separation and stuff. I mean, the only thing that I really saw is that the whoops, that far set, the long set, they were really deep and whipped out, so a lot of guys were afraid to come in too hot because they didn't want to skip across. And, you've seen guys, downshifting early and just kind of banging through them into the corner, rhythming out because they didn't want to blow the corner. But, I mean, other than that, it was literally the same. Everybody was talking the fast line. And the 3-3 before, the 3 onto the table before the finish, I seen a lot of guys because that second face was getting pretty G'd out. A lot of guys were, getting pitched a little bit, but I didn't really like it. I mean, you can almost see that when guys were in the pack in a lot of the corners because you didn't have a lot of momentum, they didn't think they were going to get a good drive through the corner, so they were almost squaring down right at the corner of the corner before you hit the apex, and I just didn't like it, man. Like, I don't know what it was like in person. Obviously, we've all gone to a lot of races and stuff, so we know that sometimes we get, we see stuff on TV, and we're like, oh, man, that's really crappy, and then you get here in person, you're like, oh, okay, they do their best and stuff, but I can just imagine a lot of guys weren't happy, and from things that I've heard in the last 2 days, guys were pretty hard on dirt works. There was no separation, and it showed.
Well, yeah, being there in person, some things I noticed. It was a pretty technical track, very one line through a lot of it, though, especially after that first triple. all the way till you got to the long set of whoops. I mean, it was so technical, and there wasn't really any jump lines. Like, you had that first small set of whoops, and that was kind of tricky because they were like, there was a small entrance whoop, and then it was like a gigantic second whoop, and then they all were super giant, super deep. Savachi in practice, and I don't know if they showed this, I asked you, but I can't remember what you said. Savachi in practice, and actually I think you said a couple of the guys in B practice were trying to actually jump that whole section, and Savachi got close a couple times, but he cased the last one, and because they were so big, like almost endoed off the track. And then other than that, they would roll through that into that corner that was elevated, which I thought was really cool, but just the way it was built, it was weird. And the other problem was coming off that elevated corner, like it was pretty much one line. You just went inside, rolled down, and then double single out into the whoop section. In practice, Sealy did try to go super wide and go 2-2 off of that. And I think it worked. I can't remember exactly. I remember him doing it, but I don't remember if he actually did it or not. And so that was really the only other thing, but it was so slow to try to creep around the outside of that because there was no berm or anything up there, that it really wasn't, I don't know, it wasn't really that cool. As far as the rest of the track, I didn't really care for it. I actually sat on the far side from the whoops there for the night show, and I keep hearing that those whoops were way bigger on press day, and then they like literally cut them in half. And I'm here to tell you, they looked small, like even sitting there, because when I got there for first practice, I sat right down in front, right by them, which there's actually a couple videos of some of the B guys for 250B in their first qualifying session that I've put up on Instagram and the Facebook page. And yeah, they were very, very small, and after first qualifying session, they were just beat, like straight hammered. So they weren't really that cool. So before we move on, let's talk a little bit. What did you think about the new format from a home viewer perspective?
Well, I know that, like we talked about this before we started it, or when we started this call, before we started the actual rolling, that a lot of the internet is not happy, and I think that's just a look. I don't mean to be disrespectful. I mean, I guess you can see me as even an old timer because I've been around this for 26 years, but I've seen a lot of these guys that have been around it, for 40 plus years, and I think that they were very critical because I don't think the guys that have been around this since the 70s and stuff, they don't like change. They go, well, what's the point? Like, just keep the way it is, it works and stuff, and I can see it from that view, especially when you're at home, because, man, I can only imagine what it was like at the stadium, because I've been, back in the old days when it was just heat races and stuff, and then you went into the LCQs and then the mains, but there was none of this all the social media stuff, there was none of that going on. Like, it was just racing and then stopped. So I can't imagine what it was like at the stadium, but there were a lot of people saying, well, there's a lot of downtime, and there was a lot of commercials. And I know that everybody has to make the bottom dollar and stuff, but dude, like, usually what? You'd say there's probably 6 commercials, maybe in between each segment. Like, I think I counted at one point, there was like 13 commercials before they actually went, and I think that they were trying to time it like 20 minutes or 25 minutes from those 450 main to the next 250 main and stuff, but I like the format. I don't want to see it be the norm because I think it's a little bit sketchy to try to get these guys to go straight into race mode right from qualifying during the day. And people are like, well, you got 3 hours downtime. Well, the problem is it's very hard to go from sitting around from 3 hours and then going right into race mode and everything counting. And people will go, well, the heat races count. Well, no. We've seen it over the years. Guys get bad starts. They work their way through. They get into qualifying, and then they check up. And then they focus on the mains. Well, now you're talking about guys literally have to go in and every main counts. It's Olympic scoring, so you have 2 other mains if you have 1 bad main. But the problem is that, the first 2 are so short that if you get 2 bad starts, you already basically cost yourself a chance at the overall, or you're going to get top 3. Now, we talked about this with the parity, and it is cool. You've seen guys, and we'll talk about it in the 450s with Justin Brayton, guys that normally wouldn't be up in the podium spot. But I think it's a cool concept. But I don't want to see it more than 3 times a year because I think if we saw the craziness, especially in the 450 class that happened on Saturday night, if it happened 2, 3, 4 races in a row, I don't think we're getting the full grasp of who is the best guy. Because let's be honest, those first 2 450 mains were very hectic, but it was all because the start was terrible and it was one line. And it screwed a lot of people. You know, it screwed Kenny, it screwed Barsha, you know, it screwed a couple other people and stuff. It almost screwed Anderson when they got, you know, when everybody stacked up with him, Tickle, and Mookie. So I think it was a cool concept, but I agree with what some of the top 450 guys were saying. They don't want to see it be a normal thing because there's just too many chances for something to go wrong compared to one main. And if you have a bad start, then it is what it is. But then you have downtime. It's over with. Like, the night is over with. Well, you have one bad race in the format, and you're down mentally, and then you've got to go right back out 40 minutes later and get back into race mode. And I know that people say, well, these guys are the best in the world, but that's very mentally draining to try to do that and just get over it within 40 minutes.
Yeah, being in the stadium, actually, I don't think it was that bad. I didn't feel like it was that bad. I didn't feel like there was a ton of downtime. I think the biggest amount we had was between the first mains and the second mains. Because if I remember right, I kept looking at my watch, and we were about, by the time the 450 first main was done, we were quarter to 8 local time. And I want to say about 9:05, or I'm sorry, 8:05, 8:10, the second set went off. So we had probably about 25-ish, 25 minutes in between there, where we really didn't have anything going on. So it wasn't too bad from my perspective. I have heard a lot of people talk about how many freaking commercials there were, which I can see.
Yep.
But like Jason Wygant said on the Pulp review, they can refine this. Like, we're talking about 20 years of refinement on the, you know, 20 laps or 20 minutes plus one 20 minutes plus one lap time frame, where this was the first time we tried it. I know a lot of the guys weren't super pumped up on it because they either A, didn't do well, or B, like the top guys were like, man, that was nuts, like I don't want to do it over and over again. But I'll be interested to see if they refine it a little better once we get going a little farther here. You know, like once we get into Atlanta or Minnesota, where the next ones are. I'll be real interested to see how those go comparison-wise. So I know a lot, like I said, a lot of guys didn't really care for it, but that was, I think that's more of a, it's a new and we didn't know how to approach this, because everybody's like, oh, well, we practice 6 minutes, we practice 8 for heat race type stuff, but again, you can't duplicate a race day intensity at a practice track. You just can't do it. So so I don't think it was that bad. I think it needs to be refined a little bit more. I think one thing they could do to cut down as far as the commercial rate would be, I really think they should do the LCQs at night.
Yeah, that was something they talked about.
Because the LCQs were actually fairly entertaining. Was it the 250 or 450 that somebody got stuffed in the last corner?
450, Ben LeMay on Navashell.
Yes, that's what it was. Yes. And that was great, you know. And plus, I don't get, you know, if you go to, okay, say a comedy show or a concert or something like that, they have warm-up acts. Okay, why can we not have warm-up acts for Supercross, okay? Why can't you do the LCQ where we have these guys who aren't as good, and you can say, okay, these guys have one race here, 4 minutes plus a lap, to try to make it into the main events for the rest of the night, and the top 4 make it and the rest don't. So, I mean, I've heard, well, they're worried about explaining it to people. What are you talking about, okay? You want to bring in new people. This Triple Crown format, I feel, is the excitement we need to bring more people to the sport, to watch it. So why are we, what's the holdup here? Like, okay, if they can't understand, hey, LCQ, 4 guys, go to the rest of the races for the rest of the night, I don't get it. Then we're not doing our jobs right, you know, or people aren't doing their jobs right. So
no, I completely agree. And I think that I agree. We have to see how Atlanta goes. The one thing I will say is, I think that what a lot of people were skeptical, and they have all, you know, it's justifiable, is because the track was so online. I think if we would have done this at Houston a week ago, where there was multiple variations, different ways to set up the rhythm sections, the whoops were frickin' some of the gnarliest we've seen in a long time, the dirt was good, I think it would have been a little bit better because it would have been more conducive to good racing. But I think that the way that track broke down, it was being so one line, and just everybody hucking the same line lap after lap after lap, I think that was another big gripe. I'm going to hold out to see how Atlanta and Minneapolis go. I still don't want to see it be the norm, but I think that, like you said, and like I said, that there is room for refinement. I think it's just one of those things that I think that it won't be more of a gripe to the fans once they get used to it and adapted to it. I think it would be the riders, and I think that will be the biggest check mark that they have to worry about is if the riders don't like it. I know that, you know, it's felt series, and it's Dave Prater, and ultimately comes down to him and, you know, Todd Gendro and all them. But I think if the riders really put up a fit about it, I think that they're going to have a hard time getting it through. I think eventually people will just get used to it. I mean, we got used to the Monster Cup, you know, and I know that's an off-season race, so it doesn't mean as much, but I think that the fans will get adapted to it and it'll be whatever. But I think if the riders don't like it and they just go, hey, man, like, we can't do this. We can't have a situation where the top guy, after the first main, could completely screw his season. I think that'll be the only thing going forward. So I'll reserve judgment for the next 2 rounds and stuff, because I think it was a cool concept. But I did see, once again, room for refinement.
Yeah, and, you know, we all know that Dungey didn't want this last year, so that's why we didn't get this kind of stuff last year. So, yeah, we'll see.
Now, I will say the coolest thing was is to go right into racing the map. I'm not trying to down talk the heat races and the LCQs, but the fact that you literally start the show, you go through all the pre-race formalities and all that stuff, and then the first heat race, you go, okay, or the first main, sorry, but once again, the first main, not heat race, it matters. And I think that was cool. I think that was probably cool in the stadium.
Yep.
You know, it was cool for everybody at home. They go, hey, first race, like, this matters. It's go time right now. And I know that that amplifies the butterflies for a guy in the line and stuff. So I think that that was really cool because, you know, we've seen enough races where you go to the heat race and you're like, oh, unless there's a gnarly lineup in the heat race, or for like the 250 race, like if it's Savacci, Cincerello, and Oldenburg and Plessinger, where if you just have 2 fast guys, you're like, well, it's not that big of a deal. Oh, no, we go right into the heat race and this shit matters right now.
Yep.
I think that was cool.
Yep, so, okay, cool. Anything else you want to talk about the track or anything before we move on and start actually talking about the races?
No, I'm good.
Okay, cool. Then we will we'll move on here. We'll get started with 250s. Okay, 250 time. Let's start talking about AC. Went down super hard in practice. Did you see that practice wreck?
No, they actually didn't show it. They showed the tail end, the fact that he could barely move and was wobbling off the track.
You didn't? Did you? They put it up, or he put it up on his Instagram.
Yeah, they put it in the night show. They put it like they showed it in false neutral. So I seen the crash. They just didn't show it during the day.
Yeah, I didn't see it. I didn't even see it when it happened there. I just saw him land there, and yeah, they literally picked him up and like, at first he took like half a step, and then they just dragged him off the track. So I was a little worried he wasn't going to race, and from what I heard, because I think Mathis interviewed him post-race, and from what he was saying, he didn't even think for like the first hour he was going to ride that night, and he said that he was kind of woozy like the first 2 races, and wasn't really sure how it was going to go, but it went okay, and then by the 3rd race he kind of like raced himself back in. But I thought it was a pretty good rebound for him to come back and end up 4th overall. He went 4.52 and looked really, really good that 3rd main. So how did it look from your end there?
I know that there was a lot of speculation, and I know that JT Money alluded to this on the review show that he was even, you know, should he even been out there and stuff. But we won't get into all that. That's a different story. But I think he looked good. I mean, I think that. I think, yeah, you could definitely tell in the first main, or the first main came out that he was still trying to, you know, catch his footing, and maybe was a little bit sore because they said he had severe contusions to his legs and stuff too while, you know, from going down. And so, I mean, he looked okay, you know, he faded a little bit, but that 3rd main, he really started rolling and stuff, and I mean, you know, going into the season, not knowing what was going on with him with the bike, we all said that AC was probably going to be the fastest guy, and then last weekend, you know, AP proved that, you know, when everything's clicking, that he's up there and stuff. So I think he looked good. I don't know, man. It still concerns me with the small little mental mistakes that AC makes. He's still in it just like everybody else because I think he's like 4th in the points right now or something. But I don't know exactly.
He is 5th, and he is 12 points down.
Okay, so he's 5th, he's 12 points down. So that means he's probably pretty close to Plessinger then. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I think that it's hard for AC because we keep talking about it. We didn't do all outdoor season. We don't know what AC you're going to get. If AC rips the whole shot and he gets into the roof 3 laps in, he's probably going to walk everybody. But the problem is if he doesn't get a start, he gets really erratic. And you don't know which AC you're going to get from week to week, you know. So he has just as good a shot as anybody else, man. But every round that we go and he doesn't get a win, it gets harder and harder for me to believe he's going to win this championship.
Yep. I don't think he's out of it yet, but he's definitely got some work to do here. He's going to have to pick up the consistency to be on the box here, I think, to do this. So,
would you say that he has to get a win this weekend? Would you say that he has to get a win this weekend to really, I don't want to say cement himself in the championship because obviously there's so many more rounds to go, but do you think for his confidence he has to get a win this weekend?
I don't know about that, but I would say if he doesn't get on the box here this weekend, he's in trouble.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I can agree with that. Yeah.
So from a low to high day to a just low season, Justin Hill continues to be less than stellar on this new bike.
That bike's terrible. It's slow as a turd. And I don't get it because his teammate Phil, who is not a 250 guy and is probably 25 pounds heavier, can get decent starts and actually beat Hill in the overall. So I don't get it. I pegged Hill as the title favorite because he was so dominant last year. Yes, I was a little skeptical, just like everybody else, going to JGR and going to a bike that has been very long in the tooth and still continues and is very down on power compared to everybody else. And I think that the more rounds we get in, I think that it's the bike for sure because it's very down on power and he still does not look comfortable staying on top of the whoops. But I think that if we get 2 more rounds and he doesn't at least get a top 5, which it's not pointing towards that, it's not only be a bike issue, it's going to be a confidence issue. And as much as I hate to say it, I think that we might see 2015 Hill implode and probably hit the ground.
Yeah, that could be. That could be. So it makes it really, really interesting. And later on in the season, depending upon how the rest of it goes, we'll get into going into next year with it. Another thing, Sexton looked real good again, other than that first race where he finished 15th. But I think he got caught up in the start. But other than that, looked real good. Good starts. Led for like almost 10 minutes that last race. To the point that I was doing the same thing I did with Kenny the week before. I was looking at the clock, looking at him going, is he really going to win this one? Like, is this really 3rd race in? He's going to win it. But still super impressive. And I don't think last weekend when he was on the box, I don't think that's the last time we see him on the box this year.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's going to get a couple more podiums and stuff. I don't agree with some of the chatter about him getting a win. I think that he's a season too early to get a win because I do agree. I wasn't looking at the clock so much like you were, but I get where you're coming from on that end. Like you're looking at it and you get 10 or 11 minutes in or whatever it was, and you're like, man, is he really? Like, is he going to keep this going? But then I think that Joey, and when AC started closing on Joey, like he was just kind of marking him and stuff, and I think that it showed that Chase's his speed and his talent and his program is there, but his overall speed, when it comes down to the nitty-gritty at the end of the main and guys really start pulling the trigger if they have enough left in the tank, I don't think he's on that level yet. When you start talking about the whole main as a totality, because when Joey dropped the hammer, it was very, at least on TV, it was very apparent that Chase was not going to keep him behind him no matter what he did. So I do agree that he's going to get more podiums. I don't agree that he gets a win by the end of the year. But I'm just happy that the kid keeps staying healthy. I can't keep saying that enough. I don't say that until we get to the end of the year because it's almost like with AC, just after his rookie season. You just want to see the kid get healthy because if he gets through a whole year, like, what can he do when he has a whole year under his belt?
Yeah, you know, he's one of those people, if he wins, I'm not going to be like, oh my God, I can't believe he won. But if he doesn't, that wouldn't surprise me either. And
well, he's a rookie.
Yeah, and you know, so yeah, but he looks really, really good. So it'll definitely be interesting to see how it goes for the rest of the year for him. And then Savacci.
How's the new Honda 250Fs? Everybody being really skeptical and, you know, kind of criticizing them and stuff. The new Hondas between him and Craig looked pretty good so far.
Yeah, Craig was weirdly impressive. Saturday night too.
Was it really weirdly, or was it just about time?
Maybe a little bit of both.
So, was it weird, or was it like, oh, okay, yeah, this should have happened like last year?
Yeah, I don't know. And then your boy Savachi.
Oh boy.
Only double winner on the night. Kept it off the ground. Looked pretty good all day. I didn't watch him a lot in practice. I was watching AC a lot. And I don't even remember who else I was really watching in 250 practice, like really heavily. But yeah, double winner. Just looked pretty solid all night. Yes, I will say that I'm not going to get over the Savachi syndrome until he wins a title. When he wins a title, then I might start to get over the Savachi syndrome tagline. What I will say is, if he has figured it out the way Anderson looks like he's figured it out of, hey, if we stay off the ground and just finish 4th instead of hitting the ground and finishing 8th instead of 4th, we might win a title at this rate. If he has figured that out finally and doesn't make those dumb mistakes like that anymore, he has a really good shot, I think, at winning this title. He's got the red plate now. I don't think he's one of those guys where the red plate's going to be heavy, because he's had it before multiple times and carried it for multiple races in a season. But again, I'm still not convinced. I'm not a believer yet. But he definitely looks like he is more apt to, okay, I'll take a 4th here, I'll take a 3rd here, I'll win this one because I can, and I'm not pushing beyond that point of no return. So if he's got that figured out, like I said, I think he's got a really good shot at this title. But if he doesn't, then this title is just put all the names who are in the top 5, throw them up in the air. The one you pick up off the ground first is the one who's going to win it, because none of these other guys have it figured out either. So
I think it's very apparent that AC and AP, if you talk about everybody on their best day, AC and AP are a touch faster than everybody else.
Yes.
And Joey's even said this after Houston. You know, he's got it figured out. He's been through this. You know, just about more than anybody that we've seen in the 250 class, be so close to a championship and then have it ripped away by his own doing. You know, he's just making stupid little mistakes, but he's figured it out. Hey, if I'm feeling it today and I pull the trigger, nothing can stop me. If somebody's marking me and they go around me, I'll mark them for a few laps. You know, see if I can hold the pace, and if not, then I'll take the points. I will say this: if he wins Houston this weekend, or not Houston, why did I say Houston? If he wins Glendale this weekend, because now that there's total of 10 rounds, because they have 2 East-West shootouts, so there'll be 10 total times that they'll be racing this year. If he wins this weekend, I think everybody else is in trouble, because it's been proven the last couple of years that Joey has been one of the fastest guys, but obviously his boneheaded mistakes. You know, we've seen it 2 years ago with Coop when he raced him, and then last year with all the stuff that was, you know, Zacho. People say, oh, did he get in his head? Whatever. But I think if he has got the consistency down, I think it's going to be a very long year for everybody else, because to go to my point about Coop and Zacho, he's not racing anybody that's like Coop and Zacho. You know, Coop, one of the most dominating 250 guys we've seen in Supercross for a long time, and then he ran into the freight train that is Zach Osborne last year. There's nobody on this West Coast that is as good and as consistent as those guys. So I'm not going to say right now, because, you know, like I said, only 4 rounds out of 10 for them. It's way too early. But if he wins this weekend and we go into, say, round 6 and he's still the red plate holder, I'm probably just going to have to say that I will give him probably a 90% chance to win, because McElrath is the only other guy that he's racing that is consistent. AC's not. AP, we saw what happened. His starts were terrible. You know, you're not going to put Christian Craig in there because he can't get over the hump. So it's like he's racing McElrath, and McElrath has proven that when he doesn't get starts, he doesn't get through the package quick. So, yeah, I mean, I agree. I will hold off judgment because we're still way too early. But all I'm going to say is that if he really has learned how to back it down and ride like, and I'm doing an air quotes in here, dunge, I think the guys are in trouble, because I think he's the most racecraft efficient compared to everybody else in the class. It's just the stupid mistakes that have cost him the last 2 years.
Yep, and I would agree with you that I think Shane is the only other guy that's consistent enough. And I mean, obviously it shows, because 3 races in and they're tied for the lead with 68 points each. that shows fairly consistent finishes. So, you know, Shane did it last week with finishing, didn't he finish 4th in Houston, I think, last week?
Yeah, he finished,
and won the first one, and then was 2nd this week. So, I mean, that's pretty good, because you had Savachi was, what, 4-2-1 also, must be? Yeah. So... So consistency I think is going to win it, and those two are the only two that I think do have the consistency. Now, like I said, if they start throwing that consistency out the window, or one of them has a bike problem like Shane did last year, then yeah, all bets are off, and you can throw all the names in the top 5, 6, 7 even in a hat, and we'll see who comes out on top in Vegas. But
that we'll only see that at the 2 East West shootout round.
Yeah.
Stacking in all these guys.
Yep.
I think that honestly, he was still going to win, obviously. And you know, if St. Pete can get a start, he's going to get a win. But if we're talking about consistency, I think the only race that could possibly throw all that out the window is the 2 East-West rounds. Because we don't know, you know, other than Osborne, which is almost guaranteed lock that he's going to do good, like what the other guys are looking at on the East Coast. I think that's the only other round. If you just want to talk about every race, like those guys being in the top 3, I think that it's probably going to come down to those two, and I think over the next 2 rounds, you're probably going to see those two guys separate themselves a little bit from everybody else.
Yeah, probably. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I got for the 250s. Anything else from you, man?
No, other than the fact that Aaron Plessinger continues to disappoint me with the starts.
Yeah, I have actually the last 2 mains, because people can't sit down in Anaheim, apparently. So I didn't get the first main, but the last 2 mains I have the first corner because I had a perfect direct shot into it. So I just would set the camera up and just point in, and both of the second and third 250 main, you can clearly see Plessinger, the last person going around the corner. And I'm just like, oh my God.
It's just a joke.
It is. It is. But all right, cool. That's enough 250s. Now we'll get into 450s. All right, so 450s here. I'll give you an option. You want to start with Eli, Anderson, Kenny, or you want to talk about Justin Brayton first?
Let's talk about Justin Brayton, because I think he was a little bit of a surprise. Maybe not a surprise to his supporters, but the fact that he did this well.
Okay, go ahead. You can go first, man.
I mean, people that watch the preview show and watch this show know that I'm definitely a big Justin Brayton supporter. I loved his program. You know, he's smooth, he's flawless on the bike. You know, he's not one of those guys that causes rift between people in the industry. You know, he's a family man. He has no bones about it. He doesn't want to race outdoors anymore, and I hate this. These guys are way too non-transparent. They're like, oh, you know, I want to race Supercross, but, you know, I'm not that good outdoors, so maybe I hate that. Brayton has no problem saying, hey, man, I've been doing this for, I think he's been pro for 13 to 14 years or whatever it is. Like, I have no problem just racing Supercross, and so I like that, you know, but I think we kind of all pegged that when it came out that we were going to do these Triple Crown races, that oddly enough, the 2 guys on the same team and one guy that's retired, that would this benefit the most is Vince Freeze and Justin Brayton. Great starters, great sprinters, and dude, Brayton the whole entire night looked good. Like, he was in the top 5, you know, and he didn't look out of place. Like, his speed was there, and he didn't get dropped. Now, granted, he got dropped from Anderson and Tomac in that third main and stuff, but I mean, dude, his speed was there, and he just didn't look out of place. So I'm happy for the dude. I love it. You know, and he's like, what, the 6th in the points? Well, no.
He is, I think you're right. I think he's 6th.
Okay, so 6th in the points, not that far away from Weston and Kenny. I mean, dude.
Yeah, he's...
I think that when we get later in the season, because he's been doing this for so many months, doing the Aussie series, he might wear down because he is one of the older guys in the class. But dude, like, I just love it because I want to watch the Brayton run. Yeah,
he actually looked really, really good all day from being there, and a 2.63. I mean, great finishes, and like you said, that last main, I mean, other than getting dropped by Eli and Kenny, which everybody else, or I'm sorry, Eli and Jason, which everybody else got dropped by them too. I mean, how do you fault the guy? But we said going into these Triple Crown races, guys like him, these races are like tailor-made for him because they're shorter, which is great. And like you said, he is 6th in points, 52 points, so he is actually... he's only actually 7 points behind Sealy in 2nd place, And obviously he's 18 behind Anderson in first, but I mean, dude, you've got really second through sixth place in points is a toss-up at this point, because on any given night, I mean, obviously we saw with Kenny, he went 11, or what was it here? Let me see. Sorry, I got pulled up. I mean, Kenny goes 11, 12, 4. And so it's just like, you know, you get into some of these other Triple Crown races and he has another bad night like that, which I don't think will happen, but we'll get into that a little bit more when we talk about him. I mean, just great. And yeah, it's great to see him up there. And again, this is where the Triple Crown races gave us exactly what we wanted to see, which was parity.
Yep.
Multiple guys up there. Multiple different guys winning races. I mean, 5 winners in 6 races the other night was great. So,
so
yeah.
we think Brady gets a couple podiums this year then?
I think he could podium again in the next one. I think he may have a little harder time by the time we get to Minneapolis, and we've had 3 of these, and people will have started to figure out what they need to do for it to be better at them. But I think definitely, at least the next one, he still stands a fairly good shot.
Okay. Yeah,
so I mean, let's talk about, let's move on to Kenny, man. Let's talk about Kenny. So I sent you a text. The ballsiest dude I've ever seen comes out in opening ceremonies wearing the same shift gear that he wore last year when he blew up his arm. And I actually listened to the interview Mathis did with him, and that was actually a thing. He went to shift and was like, hey, I want to wear this gear. Or he went to Fox and was like, hey, I want to wear this. And they were all about it, I guess. They were like, yep, let's do it. We'll get you the exact same gear, exact same color combo. Which, like you said, even when I text you, well, A, that's weird because he wears Fox, not Shift now. But obviously parent company, so they didn't really care. And then the other thing was, well, your other concern, well, that's last year's color line. They're never going to let him wear last year's color line, but they did. They must have thought that the... I guess irony of it, the symbolism of it was more important than selling some gear, selling some old gear. So, yeah, I thought it was a really ballsy move and really cool to see. So,
but unfortunately, it backfires.
Well, I mean, dude, you saw on Instagram too, like he was a ball. He even said, I was a ball of nerves. Like, I just wanted to get in and get out, and I don't blame him, because the amount of mind fuck that would go through my head if I almost lost my arm somewhere the year before and was back racing the same exact place on the, like, almost the same day. Like, I would be in the same place. Like, God, just please let me not leave here in an ambulance and we're cool. Like, like I'll go 22, 22, 22 and it's fine. Like, as long as I'm still walking.
Let's be real, like, the Kenny's storyline, that was the main storyline. There was a bunch of different ones. I think the other one was really Ken Tomac win as many races as he did last year. But Kenny coming back, that was the biggest hype, the biggest storyline. I mean, good God, they were hyping that back up when they found out that Kenny was probably going to keep his arm, like back in like Daytona last year. You know, and they were hyping this up for months, even through the outdoor season. They were talking about it, not as much, obviously, because they don't want to interfere with different series, but they were hyping this up. So he gets asked on a daily basis. He's probably going to get asked for the rest of the year. Probably people get asked this for the rest of his life, because it's one of the gnarliest crashes we've seen in a very long time. But this week, at the year anniversary, or maybe not down to the exact day, like you said, but the year anniversary at the same track, those questions probably got amped up by like 1,000. Oh, hey, how do you feel? This and that. And I like what he was doing. I like the fact that he tried to show that it wasn't on his mind. But you know, the moment he went on the line, that it got into his head very quickly, because, man, like that first main when Barsha and Ando were coming through, like, okay, you know, Kenny's just gonna lead the pack. You know, he's gonna do his own thing, and then he's gonna pull the trigger with 2 laps to go and stuff. He's gonna push his way through. And Barsha and Ando they dropped him like it was nothing. I mean, you wouldn't even think that was Kenny out there. So I don't know. I like what he was doing, and I like that he tried to show that his nerves weren't there. But you could clearly tell those first 2 mains that he was not himself. Well,
I'll tell you from being there, and I watched him quite a bit in practice too, he did not look good all day. The best he looked all day...
Like what, 8?
I think that's what he was, something like that. But dude, he looked awful. Like, I was watching him put in heaters, and he was not looking good at all. Like, you could even tell, like, he was trying to push, and he just couldn't. And again, I think it was a mental thing. But man, it's weird. I don't know if they're going to change his intro video after this weekend. I'll see it when I'm in Phoenix. But I think I heard somebody on the Pulp Show or something allude to it. His intro video is him crashing last year and coming back from it, which is cool because it's like a comeback story. But at the same time, man, when I get ready to go out and race, I don't know if the last thing I want to see is a video of me crashing and blowing my arm up. Like, that's a big thing.
They gotta stop doing that. And we all know that Kenny is one of the most mentally strong, if not the most mentally strongest dude in the world racing at a professional level. But they gotta stop doing that. He may not pay attention and stuff, but he gets constantly reminded on a daily basis. Well, shit, all he has to do is look at his arm and it's a constant reminder and stuff. But they gotta stop doing that, because even he can tell you that, oh, hey, that's not in my head. But man, if that's one of the last things you see before you go to the line out, even if it's just a heat race, with already your heart rate being at 180 or 185, that can't be on your mind and stuff. So they got to stop doing that. And I know that it's kind of, it's a comeback story, but like I told you, I was texting you throughout the night, like, even his race anticipation, it wasn't there. Like, if guys were on the inside, where you would clearly, the smart thing with you, shut the door on him, square up the corner, and just flow through the next section. Or, if he was on the inside, they're on the outside. Hey, go inside out. And he would just let people switch the corner on him and stuff. And it's just like, man, like, this isn't the Ken Roczen that we know. And then granted, he came out in that final main, and, he looked like he loosened up a little bit. He got kind of shut the nerves and stuff. But, man, it just, I think it just all backfired on him and stuff. I think that he was like, oh, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to show this not on my mind. And then he lined up, and the crowd got noisy, and, everything was, going through his pre-race ritual, and he's like, oh, crap. Like, no, this is the race that it almost all ended for me, and I almost lost my arm, and I think it showed, like, that was on his mind the whole entire time.
Yeah, I think it definitely was, and I'm not sure that we'll see that anymore this year, because now we're past that point.
I hope not.
But, yeah, we could definitely see it. So let's move on. Anderson. Is Jason Anderson the next Ryan Dungey?
No, because Ryan Dungey doesn't get really erratic with his riding style. But, I get what you're saying and stuff. He definitely looks like whatever his issues have been the past 2 years mentally, because we've said it a million times. Jason Anderson has always been one of the fastest dudes in the 450 class since he came into it in 2015. But, man, like, I don't know, dude. I don't know where this is all of a sudden coming from. Like, he's not the same guy that he has been the last 2 years. He's patient, kind of like when we talked with Joey Savacci and stuff. He's learned to, hey, man, I don't always have to put in a heater every lap. Like, hey, just let the race come to me. I know my technique is good. I know my endurance is good, obviously, from training in the Vapor compound and stuff. But, dude, that third main, like, that was Ryan Dungey-esque. That was methodical. He jumped in behind Tomac. He was mirroring him through sections and stuff. You could tell that maybe he honestly I think Ando could have pulled the trigger on lap 2 when he would have dropped Eli, but he sat back and he watched him and he's like, okay, this is where he's going here, and then finally, whatever it was, like lap 5 or 6 and stuff, you could tell that Eli, from not being on the bike, that shoulder was probably getting a little bit sore and it was stiffening up, and he goes, all right, dude, I'm going to go around you, and that's the end of it. I mean, Jason Anderson, without a doubt, was the fastest guy all day long, and I will stand by this. I will stand for this. Now, obviously, this is in hindsight, but if he would have got the start, a top 5 star in every one of those mains, I think he would have won going away. I'll just say, I think he would have won handily every main had he got a top 5 star.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. He looked very, very good all day. The only person I thought looked even close to him, if not better, was Eli himself. And Eli actually shocked the crap out of me, especially in that first qualifying session when he kept going to the top of the board. And him and Anderson kept going back and forth. And I was just like, holy crap. I mean, how do we feel about Eli coming off the bench, basically, after being off for 2 weeks and just, I mean, to say dominate is really a strong word, but man, it was a very dominating day for him. I mean, he was fastest qualifier, wasn't he? Or did Anderson beat him?
Yeah, he was the fastest qualifier.
Yeah, so he was fastest qualifier. I mean, he didn't have a great start the first race. They got that 5th in. But he still looked really, really good because I was actually watching him pretty close too most of the day. But then the second race, just dominate. Third race, whole shot. Where did these starts come from? Where did these starts come from for him? He hasn't gotten a damn start.
I think that was a big. I think that was a big thing he worked in the offseason because his reaction time was great, his shift points were great, and he committed all the way into the first turn.
I was gonna say, like I said, I had a direct line of sight to the first corner, and like every start, I was like, holy shit, what the heck is Tomac doing up front? Like, he doesn't start up front. He starts like 10th-ish and just moves his way through. And he was up front every single race, which was weird. So, I don't know, man. I'm not shocked because of the deal I told him. And he did win grand races last year, and he almost pulled the upset of the century by coming from 28, 29 points down and stuff. So even with him being off the bike and probably only riding really 2, maybe 3 times in 2 weeks since the crash at A1, I know that for most people that's hard to fathom. That holy crap, how can you only be on the bike 2-3 weeks? But his issue wasn't the speed. We know how fast Eli Tomac is. He's arguably the fastest dude in the world. And we know that he finally got that bike set up, where he likes it, so he's comfy on that. It's just, it wasn't even the fitness. Like, he wasn't hitting the wall, but you could tell that it was a shoulder day because there were certain times, kind of like Kenny in his right arm, he would compensate a little bit and kind of just, track to the other side of his shoulder and stuff instead of putting a lot of, emphasis on that when he was going through sections. But I know that he won the second main, and I'm not trying to take any credit away, and he rode above and beyond mine and probably anybody else's expectations. But we can't overlook the fact that Cole Seeley, had he not lit it up going into that second set of whoops at the beginning of the rhythm section, Cole Seeley was probably going to pass Tomac, and I know you can say coulda, woulda, shoulda, he didn't do it, he didn't. But you could clearly see that Cole was faster than Tomac in that second main. It's just the track was so one line, he couldn't make it happen. So yes, Eli rode great, and I know that that's very good because if he wants to try to make the comeback of the century, like the True being 43 points down, he's got to start winning and winning probably every race. But man, I was surprised, but to me, if Cole Seeley gets 6th off the line in the third main, Cole Seeley ends up winning the overall. And I think a lot of people are forgetting that. And once again, coulda, shoulda, woulda. He didn't do it. So that's on Cole's, maybe the nerves did get to him that he could have won his second main ever in the 450 class. But Eli kind of got a Dunge-esque win because he wasn't clearly the fastest guy, and I don't know. I'm kind of mixed, you know what I mean? I don't want to take any credit away from him because I'm glad that he's back, and it always makes the series better when the top guys are there. But it's also, I think that it's kind of one of those things that's like, well, was he really the best guy, or did he just get lucky that Cole got a bad start in the third day? You know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe you don't agree, but that's just kind of the way I want to look at it. I don't want to take anything away from him, but I also don't want to say, oh, God, he was so much better than everybody else. Yeah, I wouldn't disagree. Cole was another one that looked great all night. I think the format really fits him, and that track was very much his style. It was technical. It was tight. So, yeah, I don't want to take anything away from Eli. I don't want to take anything away from Cole. It's just pretty much how the cookie crumbled that night. So,
how about Cole Seeley being second in the points? We literally just talked about after Houston, Barcia Roczen could be the points leader, and Cole Seeley's second in the points.
Like I said, if I think with the 450s, it goes the same way. If Anderson has a weekend that he blows up or implodes here because something's not going right, the top, what do we got? What did I say? All the way down to Brayton. Let's see here. Brayton. Yeah, the top 6 all the way down to Brayton. Put the names on some paper, crumple it up, throw it in a hat, pick one out. That's who's going to be your title or your champion for the year, So
once again, way too early in the season, and we'll obviously know more. And I don't think we'll get a really good grasp. I think we know, other than Marv not being 100%. I think we're pretty sure we know who the top five guys are, speed-wise and consistency-wise. Maybe things vary a little bit. Some people take one guy, put another in, but I think we're pretty in agreement who the top 5 guys are after 3 rounds, but technically 5 races. But are we in agreement that if Anderson has got this mental thing figured out where his starts are good and he knows when to push and when to back it down? Because he's clearly been the fastest guy other than A1. So 4 out of 5 races, he's been clearly the fastest guy. If he has this thing down where now the consistency and starts are not an issue, is everybody else in trouble? I know that we think other guys are going to get wins, but if we're looking at Anderson's speed with Dungey consistency, is everybody else in trouble? Are we in agreement on that, or are you not there yet?
No, I think they are. If he's got it figured out, because he's the guy that's fast enough when everybody else is off. Okay, when Tomac's not at his best, when Kenny's not at his best, when, you know, whoever, throw a name in who raw speed is faster than Jason, isn't at their Marv. He's fast enough to win, but he's also fast enough to be dangerous on the nights when they are all
when they're hot.
Yeah, you know, he has no like clearly speed for speed wise, he is well within the top 5 guys in the class right now, speed for speed wise.
Yep.
But the thing is, like you said, if he's figured it out, because I think one of the problems was he would just always push and push and push, and oh, I can be faster, and it's like, no, you can't. Like, you're faster because you're just way over the edge of where you need to be. Where now, like you said, if he's figured it out, yes, I think the rest of the guys are in trouble.
Yeah, if he was more centered to the bike and more relaxed with his legs and stuff, like where they were staying tight to the bike, instead of, like I alluded to in the Houston show, with his hips unlocked, and it was Dungey style, then yes, he would be able to push that pace because he would always be in full control of the bike. But because he is so erratic and he is never really in full control of the bike, he can't push that pace. Well, now he's got his consistency down and he knows when to back it down. I just think that, once again, we're still too early, but say we get 7, 8 rounds in or whatever, and he's still the points leader, I think that a lot of people are in trouble because we know with Dungey, you know, other than, what was it, we talked about, I think it's the 2016 season, like a lot of his championships, he has been the fastest guy on certain nights, but he won by consistency. Well, Anderson can win with consistency and speed. So if you have those two things, you're almost looking at an unstoppable force, and I don't know, man, like, we got a long season to go, but if I'm everybody else, and if you know, people talk about Tomac on a winning streak. If he goes on a winning streak, I'm everybody else, and I'm going, dude, we're screwed right now. Because, like, first off, you can't beat him in consistency, and then now I can't match this guy speed-wise. That's a recipe for disaster for everybody else. Yep,
I would agree. So, all right, let's wrap this up here then. Winners in the 250 and the 450 for next week in Glendale.
My winner in the 250 class, I will I might as well just say for the 450. I think the guy that won the 250 is Joey Savacci. I think he's going to win. I think that, I don't know, man, I think that this newfound attitude of knowing when to back it down and the fact that his starts have been pretty much on point through 5 races, I think that that plays into his favor. And the 450, what I meant by the 450 guy, the third main winner, Jason Anderson, I think that they are going to keep this rolling. I think that everybody's kind of worried that, hey, Tomac can be 100%. But, man, like, I don't know. I think Anderson, he's doing something special right now, and I think he's going to continue it. I do, though, and I know that we're not going to go on the podium, but I do think A2 was an aberration for Kenny. I think that was a mental thing. I think that we see the real, and maybe even the Houston Kenny this weekend. I think he's going to be out of the box. But I think Anderson and Savacci win, and I will probably stay pretty handily.
Okay. I got 250s. I think Shane's going to win this weekend. Okay. If you watched the post-race press conference, he didn't look real happy. Which is probably has something to do with he was a little pissed off at himself because he threw it away. Was it the first main or the second main that he was going inside on Craig and buried the front end there in that first corner. So probably had he got around him there and even just finished in that spot, there's a good chance he probably would have won. And then I think, dude, Glendale is Tomac's building as far as I'm concerned right now. So I'm going to go with Tomac gets another win this weekend. Because he's won the last 2 years now? 3?
I don't know. Well, I don't know, to be honest with you. I think that actually last year was the first time he's ever won there.
No, he won.
Been around for that long.
No, he won in 15. He won, or even if it wasn't in Glendale, he won Phoenix in 15.
Yeah, that was Phoenix. That wasn't Glendale. Yeah, that
okay.
So I get.
But yeah, but he's always really good in Arizona. So I think Eli's gonna win, and I think Shane's gonna put it on top of the box. So.
Well, I got no beef with the Shane thing, and honestly, I don't even have any beef with the Tomac thing because Eli Tomac is correct. Arizona, for whatever reason, he kills it in that state. My question to you is on the Eli thing, and I'm not disagreeing, so I'm not trying to start an argument. But my question is that if Anderson gets a start and Anderson continues to rise, and he rides as good as he did in Houston in that third main, is it going to be a walk by Eli Tomac, or are we looking at a 20-minute plus one battle between those two, since we're on agreement that when they're both on their best days, Anderson's just as fast as Tomac?
I think if Anderson gets a start, Tomac's going to have a little trouble getting around him, but I think Tomac is ultimately going to be faster and won't have really an issue winning. Because, okay, here's the thing. We're right back in the same spot we were last year pretty much with Tomac in the title thing. It's win or go home for him.
Yeah.
It's win or go home. I mean, Matt texted us today and said he literally did the math, and if Tomac wins out and Jason wins out, or I'm sorry, if Tomac wins out and Jason gets second, so they go 1-2 every single week, Tomac loses the title by 1 point. Now, obviously, we don't think that's going to happen because we don't think, it honestly, to me, is impossible for that to happen, for them to both go 1-2. It's a bigger long shot in my mind for Anderson to go second the rest of the year out. I don't see him doing that. Could I see Tomac winning every single race? It's not a high percentage,
Never been done.
but I could see it.
Never been done.
But I could see it. I mean, look at what he did last year, where he rattled off 9. And last year he had to chase down one of the most consistent guys ever. Where this year he doesn't have that as of this point. So,
But I gotta interject though when we're bringing up the Dungey thing, because I can't, because I've obviously, we've all had this argument, and I've had an argument with other people that are Dungey fans. Ryan Dungey is not the fastest. It's hard because he's so consistent, but it's not unfathomable because of the wins, because Dungey's not always going to be the fastest guy. Well, Eli Tomac's racing a lot. I know it's all the same dude, so people will go, that doesn't make any sense. Well, the difference is Jason Anderson this year is leaps and bounds faster than what Ryan Dungey was last year. Ken Roczen, when you get his stuff figured out, we know is faster than Ryan Dungey because, he beat him for 2 races in a row and was running him down in the 3rd race before he got hurt. Marvin Musquin, when he comes back, was clearly faster than Ryan Dungey last year. So the difference is that even though you're arguably racing the most consistent dude in motocross, supercross history, you are racing the fastest guy. It's not like he did this against, Ryan Villapoto. So I agree that it's hard to believe that Eli will win out or Anderson will get second, but I think it's easier to believe that Anderson can get second than Eli Tomac win, because we've never seen somebody win 13 races in a row, and we're talking about the greats, Ryan Villapoto, James Stewart, Ricky Carmichael, and it's a completely different argument, so I won't get into that. I will just say that Eli Tomac is none of those 3 guys. He's none of those 3 guys. And he still didn't win the championship last year because he had a brain fart in East Rutherford. So I get the argument, and I know that everybody's like, well, it's Eli Tomac, he did it last year. Well, that was last year. This is this year. Things are different. And Eli Tomac, once again, are we really going to think that he can make it through 13 more rounds or whatever it is without another brain fart? And then I'm actually asking you a question on that one.
Yeah, that's highly doubtful too. So, like I said, it wasn't. It's not a big percentage chance I give him, but it's not one of those things that if it happened, I would be like, oh my god, this is freaking insane. I would just be like, yep, that's about a Tomac thing to do.
Well, if it happens, everybody, you will be like, I think you will be in the 1% on that, because, like I said, the biggest points deficit ever win a Supercross championship was 27 with Ricky Carmichael. 43 has never been done, and you're talking about 40 years of Supercross history. My mind will be blown. Like, that's, if Carmichael only did 27, it's very hard to imagine that Eli Tomac can do 43. That's what I mean by that'll be some crazy shit. Like, I can't see it. I can't. I hate to agree with Steve Mathis, but I got to err on the side of history. There's a reason why nobody has won that many races in a row, and I'm sorry, Eli Tomac is not Ryan Villapoto. He's not James Stewart. He's not Ricky Carmichael.
This is true. This is true. So, anything else before we wrap this up?
Not really.
Okay. So that has been another episode of the Moto Aftermath Show. Don't forget, please, 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 smash that subscribe button. Get your friends to subscribe. go make fake accounts and subscribe. Whatever you got to do, we need more subscribers at this point so we can get a couple bucks going still and keep the lights on. Also, you can help us out, like I said, through Patreon. Links there in the description. There is Amazon links in the description. You can go to Teespring links, which are in the description, buy a t-shirt to support the show. Follow us on Facebook. We are going to start doing a review, we're going to continue to do the review show on YouTube. We're going to start the week of the Daytona race doing a preview show on Facebook, so make sure you follow us on Facebook. Follow me on Instagram. I'll be going to a couple more races this year, and yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So this has been another episode of the Moto Aftermath Show. We will see everybody next week after Phoenix.